Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right, everybody. Thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books, and I'll let you know what I thought about them. And I do want to highlight DynamicForces.com real quick. Check out their website. They got great limited edition covers, CGC books, signed books, remarks, amazing content over at DynamicForces.com. And be sure to enter Robbie at your cart and save 10%. And now, like always, we start with the pick of the week. This week's pick of the week, Radio Apocalypse issue number 1, the long-awaited series from Vault Comics, Ram V, Anand RK, Aditya Bidikar. Come on! This book is absolutely fantastic. I loved it. The colorist is Anisha, by the way. If you're a fan of Ram V, especially Ram V's indie work, I would highly encourage you to check this out. Anand RK was the artist along with Ram on the writing on books such as Graffiti's Wall and, of course, Blue and Green, which was one of my favorite comic book of the last few years. This was really freaking amazing. The artwork is a really interesting, complex, layered, dense type style that really fits the mood of this story. What is this story about? It's about the end of the world, right? And it's about one of the last bastions, one of the last communities of humanity, like one last collective. It's like one city at the edge of forever at the apocalypse or something, right? And there's a radio station there, and this dude's like playing music. But it's also about the people there, how they survive, these creatures that are out there, and they have to stay inside the city. They close the gates at every single sunset, don't open it until sunrise. Out there, there's these gnarly creatures. You get to see them. It's just the tip of the iceberg as far as building out this world. But what I loved about it, aside from the amazing artwork with a lot of really interesting composition and the way, RK's work, holy cow. If you check out this cat's artwork on Graffiti's Wall, if you check out his artwork on Blue and Green, then look at this. It's a completely different style. So he suits it and adapts it to the perfect mold for this perfect story. Aditya Bidikar's lettering is absolutely amazing. Anisha's coloring, fan-freaking-tastic. But what the entire creative team has done is they've made this story around music. Kind of like What's the Furthest Place from Here last week. This one, though, a little bit more on the nose and much more effective, in my opinion. There's this note at the beginning that says, yo, I'm going to tell you the best story I can as long as you agree that when you see a song pop up, a reference to a song, play the song. Well, I did that. There's a Muse song. There's a Bruce Springsteen song. That's the only two I could pick up. But it was perfectly timed for my reading of this issue, and it really elevated the experience. I thought that this was absolutely amazing. We've been waiting on this one for a while. When Ron was on the show back in April, we thought it was just weeks away, but it was actually months away, and it was definitely worth the wait. This book is not going to be for everybody. If you don't like the art style, if you don't like the quirkiness about that, that's fine. But to me, this was incredibly resonating. The added benefit and layer of having the music kind of there for us, and it worked. It's not just, you see these comic books all the time. They'll give you a playlist, and you're like, oh, 20 songs? I can't listen to 20 songs when I read one issue. Those 2 songs freaking worked so perfect for that, and it really accentuated the mood, the characters, the story, the world building. What little we've gotten of it so far was incredibly compelling and engaging to me. Radio Apocalypse number 1. That's the pick of the week. It was a tough one to pick this week because Wasted Space 25 is here. This is the final issue of Wasted Space, which has been one of my absolute favorite series for the last 5-6 years, however long it's been since this started coming out. It's been one of my absolute favorites. This brings it to a very well-earned conclusion. I really loved every single bit in here. And if you looked at this and looked at the very first issue, you see how Michael Morisi, Hayden Sherman, Jason Wordie, and Jim Campbell have all grown as creators. They've all grown as a team together. And this was so impeccably realized. It was absolutely, astonishingly emotional, worth it, and just slam bang frickin' fantastic. Love the artwork, love the detail, love the great perspectives. There's this moment where Billy and Molly are going down this hallway and Hayden does this crazy like curve kind of thing with little panels to break it up. I love stuff like that. Everything about this book. Wasted space. I am sad to see it end, but the ending was the ending that this story deserved and at the time that it deserved. Remember, this was only going to be a 5-issue miniseries, and it became, in my opinion, a 25-issue epic. Love it. Wasted Space number 25. Sad to see you go. One last ride. Anyway, jumping over at Marvel, we have Darkhold the Wasp, issue number 1. So the Darkhold Alpha one-shot kind of set up this idea that the Darkhold book got captured by somebody, and Red and Scarlet Witch has to throw this team together to combat Doctor Doom and Chthon and all this kind of stuff, right? And then it doesn't really get back to any of that in these one-shots. What's happening is that we're seeing like what if Elseworlds alternate vision takes of like superheroes, but in a more horror-driven way. We've had like body horror a la Cronenberg for Iron Man. We had Blade in a world where he's like taken over as the king of the vampires. And in this one, it's a Wasp who is tired and fed up of Hank Pym. And I liked it. I liked it a lot. The artwork was all right, but the story sometimes felt like, oh, it seems like we know where it's going to go. And yeah, it went exactly where I thought it was going to go. But I still thought it was kind of cool. I like seeing these like horror movie versions of these classic Marvel characters and classic Marvel situations done a little bit different. So it's more like a what if, but satisfyingly so, to be honest. Pretty dope. Moon Knight, issue number 5. I think this might be my favorite book of the year from Marvel. Moon Knight has not let up for me yet. Jed MacKay's doing a great job of telling one-and-done self-contained stories in an overall arcing narrative. And that's something that I find lacking in a lot of comics nowadays, especially at the big two, but it works right here in Moon Knight. You're making leaps and bounds as far as some character work that's being done in just 5 issues. You're picking up on what's set up before, just right before with the Avengers stuff, and all the way back to the earliest days of Moon Knight. All that is taken into account, and in a very masterfully explosive superhero way, Jed MacKay and Cappuccio render that to me, the reader, in such a fantastic and thrilling way. I love the artwork, love the story, and this one, once again, telling us one story, and at the same time building an overall story and leading us to a moment where I'm like, bro, gotta check issue number 6, Moon Knight number 5 was awesome. Then we got Dark Ages issue number 3. It's alright. It's alright. It's nothing necessarily bad about it, but it's not like on the level to me that like something like Deceased was. Why do I compare it to Deceased? Because it's Tom Taylor. Tom Taylor doing what he does best, kind of like these Elseworlds tales, but doing something tragic. So there's some tragic moments in here. They don't quite hit the same way as some of the bits in Deceased did, and I don't know if that has to do with Iban Coelho. Coelho's artwork is okay, but in this one, it just doesn't quite get over the hump for me. Story's decent. It's got some righteous moments. It's got a cool ending, but all in all, it's just not hitting me the way that I was expecting. But it's still a pretty decent book, all in all. Fantastic Four anniversary tribute. So Fantastic Four is 60 years old this month. So station Fantastic Four. So what this is this is a redo of the first issue of the Fantastic Four, as well as annual number 3, I believe it is, The Wedding of Reed and Sue, but each page is done by a different artist. So I thought that the choices of artists, they're all right. I mean, you got Carlos Pacheco, you got David Latham, you got Salvador Larroca, you got Greg Land, Pepe Larraz, Jorge Fornes, Steve Epting, Chris Sprouse. You got some decent art here. It doesn't quite seem... I would have liked to see them branch out a little bit further, but they do have a page by Mike Allred, so that was cool. But anyway, they did this with Giant Size X-Men not too long ago, so that's what that is. That is like straight up for just the most hardcore Fantastic Four fans. The Amazing Spider-Man, 68, point B-E-Y. Why? That's exactly what I'm saying. Okay, so when Spencer's run was over, I was like, all right. It was a long bit, but the bit is over. Like, now I don't have to just complain about Spider-Man week after week. Well, this new story, this Beyond story with Ben Reilly taking over the reins because Peter's in a coma and things like that, it's been okay. It hasn't really been that strong, hasn't been that compelling, but nothing to warrant like, you know, just excessive rambling and ranting about it until this issue. This is 78. Point BEY. Point. It's another Point issue, which leads us to believe that of course, was not Spencer's idea. Of course it wasn't. It's Marvel's been doing this Point crap, and y'all, it's bullshit. It's Marvel just trying to get money out of you. This is a Misty Knight, Colleen Wing story. There's a little bit of Spider-Man in it. It's tying into the main story a little bit, but like, honestly, you could skip this. You could skip this. We already had a 78. Just make this issue 79. Like, or just make it a one-shot. Oh, but the one-shot of Misty, a Daughters of the Dragon one-shot wins out. No, I know. That's why you're trying to trick people, but putting it out as a Spider-Man book, but you're not tricking me anymore. I'm done. I'm done with Spider-Man. I am tired of it. I don't want to get back into that again. I don't need to invite that negativity back into my life. You had me. You pull another Point bullshit issue. I'm done. It's over. Sorry. Just, I guess I'll wait till issue 900 and see what happens. Kazar, Lord of the Savage Land, issue number 3. This book is okay. It's got some intriguing concepts. So Kazar had been killed, for instance, or something in Empire. He was brought back to life by those, whatever, the plant creature aliens or whatever. So he's got these like plant powers. He's connected to the Savage Land. Zach Thompson's writing this. It kind of gets weirdly metaphysical and weird and stuff at times, but overall it's okay. It's just okay. By issue 3, the shine of that concept's kind of worn off on me, and I'm just kind of like plodding along trying to get through it, and that's never a good thing. That's never a good thing, right? Black Panther Legends, issue number 2. This is a retelling of the origin of T'Challa, the Black Panther. The first issue dealt with the death of his father and the rise of Claw and all that kind of stuff. This one deals with him as a younger kid, going outside of Wakanda, really for the first time on his own, training, trying to become what he's going to become, and meeting Aurora for the first time. So Storm, right? And it's into that stuff. I've never really liked the whole Storm Black Panther relationship. I never really bought into it that much, so didn't really like this issue that much, and it's also just a kind of a decompressed, slow rise, re-amalgamation of things that most of us have already read before. But if you haven't read the entire origin of the Black Panther, his childhood, his story of T'Challa, definitely something worth picking up to see what's going on. From DC, we have Robin's issue number 1. This is the winner of the round Robin. They did this thing online where they had a bunch of concepts, people had to vote. I didn't know about it. Anyway, this was the one that won. And so this is a story about all the Robins. I didn't like it, though. It's written by Tim Seeley. It's got decent enough artwork. But what I really didn't like about it was it kind of plods along. It does this whole thing where the Robins all get together and they're going to have this long-awaited conversation that they've needed to have about how they were all Robin, and they need to decide definitively whether or not that was a good thing or not, whether or not Batman ruined their lives. We've seen this kind of stuff before. It's kind of played out. I don't know. The book has some decent enough ideas, and the biggest idea that's wrapped around here is that someone who's against this team is claiming that she was the first Robin. But the whole setup of the story, how they're all sitting around eating cereal, which I did like, and I do like that Damian likes the chocolate cereal. Me too, my man, my little dude, so there you go. But the whole thing of them sitting down being like, we gotta figure out bruh, Robin was many of their own choices. Anyway, Robin's number 1 kind of let me down. Wonder Woman Evolution number 1. I didn't really like this one either. Stephanie Phillips is a really solid writer. So far, though, superhero-wise, I haven't really dug on much of her stuff. Mike Hawthorne's artwork here is just not quite for me. A little quirky. It just kind of didn't flow very well. It's a story about Wonder Woman. Silver Swan's there. That was cool to see. They're tying in this idea of evolution thematically, but there seems like there's no purpose to this. It doesn't feel like it has its own separate direction to justify another Wonder Woman book. This is like an 8-issue miniseries. I don't know. I think they're just trying to fill up the Barnes & Noble shelves in time for Wonder Woman 3, but that one thought that one was a little whack. Then we got Batman 117. This is the finale of Fear State. There is the Omega one-shot that's going to tie up all the loose ends or something. I don't know, but this is the end. This is it right here. And, man, what a lackluster, uninspiring finale to something that was built up with a lot of promise. I was saying this could be like one of the best Scarecrow stories we've ever read. They could have really went into that, leaned into it. Jorge Jimenez, one of the absolute best artists in the mainstream comic book scene right now. I loved it. The artwork in the first half of this felt a little bit rushed. In the second half, though, it really cleaned up. Like, that's where most of his focus was on, was at the finale of the story. Because Jimenez had to bring it, because Tynion didn't. I did not like the way this kind of wrapped up. It's just that Batman does something completely stupid, in my opinion. But whatever. Batman 117. We're there at the end of Tynion's run now. Williamson's coming on. We'll see what happens. But there was a lot of potential in Fear State, and it just got, like, completely away. Then we got Nightwing issue 86, Fear State tie-in, the last show. Kind of ties in with some stuff going on here. Setting up some stuff in the Batgirl series coming out. But I didn't really like this one that much either. I think Tom Taylor's doing a good job at Nightwing. It's interesting. Bruno Redondo, of course, has this very nice, stylish artwork. But here you have Robbie Rodriguez. And it's nice and it's fine. The artwork is kinetic and it's cool. I just don't care about the story because Fear State's such a dud for me that it was kind of hard to get through this. And I kind of am really excited for Tom Taylor to get his track back on track for Nightwing. Anyway, then we have Batman Secret Files, The Gardener. This kind of explains more about the Gardener, her backstory, where she comes from, her connection to Pamela Isley, a.k.a. Poison Ivy. And it has some setup that's, like, one thing set up that comes to fruition there. No pun intended, actually, but anyway. It's all right. Like, the artwork was amazing. Christian Ward on the artwork, that was absolutely fantastic. But story, it's decent enough in concept, but the way they tell it is just through a series of images and just a lot of narration boxes. Kind of what Tynion likes to do. So it was all right, but this whole Fear State thing's kind of lackluster. I think Tynion's had a decent enough run on Batman, but it's definitely time for somebody new to come in. So let's see what happens with the Josh Williamson stuff. Superman, Son of Kal-El, issue number 5. This is the issue with the kiss. It happens. The issue itself, though, didn't really like it. So Jonathan is trying to come into his own as the Superman of Earth now, since Kal-El is out, trying to save Warworld or whatnot. So he's kind of trying to clean things up, do things a little bit differently. There's a country that's run by Bendix, Henry Bendix, which I really like that pull from the Stormwatch days and things like that. So that's interesting, and I like that. But I haven't really liked this characterization of Jonathan Kent, which really sucks because I was so excited to read this book because I thought that Tom Taylor wrote the hell out of Jonathan Kent in the pages of Deceased. And the way he wrote him accepting the mantle of Superman and filling those shoes, or those boots, those red boots, was absolutely fantastic in my opinion. But it just has not been working for me in this one. And then the big moment, the kiss, it just happens out of nowhere. And it's like, the smallest little thing. They made such a big deal out of it. I'm sure it's going to get fleshed out a little bit in the next issue, but it felt like an awkward moment that just I didn't feel like it. I don't know, man. It seemed rather silly and forced to me. And the story itself, his powers are being overwhelmed. He's like, oh, but I can still save everybody. And I guess it was supposed to lead to that moment. I don't know. I'm not liking that one. Green Lantern issue number 8. There's some really interesting concepts introduced here. Jeffrey Thorne's run has been pretty solid, in my opinion. It's had its ups, it's had its downs, but here at issue number 8, there's some revelations about certain people that might be be behind certain events that are occurring in the pages of Green Lantern, and I really liked it. It's got a structure where it's talking about Jonathan Stewart, then it goes into the Joe story, and so that's what the book's been doing. So it's kind of one of these things that kind of makes it feel imbalanced when you're reading it issue to issue. But I liked everything that was going on here. Some really cool, interesting ideas concerning John Stewart, his powers, and his future, possibly. But more so on the Joe side of who's behind the attack on the Lanterns. What are we going to do? Interesting. And there's so many Earth-based Lanterns. It's so hard to, make them all seem to matter. And that's something that Thorne's been doing. He's been able to juggle that pretty well. So we also got Crisscross Santucci on the artwork. I thought the artwork's pretty solid in that issue. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, issue number 5. I love the artwork. It's True Grit in space with Supergirl. But I'll tell you what I did, because I feel like Tom King is still doing what he typically does, even in an 8-issue series. He's taken the smallest idea of a story and stretching it out as far as he will go. One of the ways he justifies stretching that out is to have this book in particular be narrated in a very overly verbose kind of Western way. Well, that seemed cutesy at first, and then it kind of annoyed me, and then I started getting back into it. I mean, I like the story, I like the flow of it, so I did something. After trudging through a few pages of this, I decided I wasn't going to read the captions. I'm just going to read the dialogue. I'm going to absorb the artwork and read the dialogue, and guess what happened? I went from went to not enjoying this book to enjoying it. So maybe edit that stuff down a little bit, because when this book is a little bit more poppy and punchy, it really works. So if you're not liking that book, if you feel like it's drudging along, don't read the captions. I didn't miss anything. It's fine. Blue and Gold is here with issue number 4. It's all right. It's got the Ryan Sook's back, but he's just there for a framing sequence because Booster Gold and Blue Beetle, they're like on this talk show, and they're talking about this old school JLI days, like caper that they were on, but they each have their own interpretation of it. And like one version's drawn by Kevin McGuire, which is cool. The other one's by Dan Jurgens. So it's cool to see the artwork. It's cool to see the throwback. I don't know how many newer fans will kind of get that, but I don't know how many newer fans are reading Blue and Gold. But anyway, so if you're Justice League International, if you're from those days, the Kevin McGuire, Giffen, Dave Mattea stuff, definitely worth checking out. If you like the Dan Jurgens Booster Gold stuff, it's pretty good. So it's all right, but I don't know, issue number 4, it's just not really moving me too much. Speaking of not moving me, Aquaman the Becoming issue 3, this book just kind of sucked, man. I really was looking forward to this book. I like Jackson Hyde. I was interested in a miniseries focusing on him because I feel like, especially since the character was introduced in the DC universe in like Brightest Day, they haven't really done too much with that character. But this is just kind of boring. It's kind of like a really by-the-numbers, cliche, kind of whodunit frame. Oh, they framed him. Everybody's after him. And Mira's got to lie and this and that. And I don't know. It's like we don't know much about Jackson's past. Like there's an open world there to like fill with like with exciting story and character ideas and concepts. But what they're usually like, what if? Dun dun dun. It's too much of that. Kind of wearing me out. Refrigerator Full of Heads, issue number 2. This book, which is not written by Joe Hill, curated by Joe Hill, it's actually written by Rio Ewers, but it is a sequel to Basket Full of Heads. Very firmly a sequel here. I like the concepts. I like how it's taking the story a little bit further. It's not just the axe, which in the original book, if you use this axe to cut off someone's head, their head was still alive. So this person wound up with a basket full of head. Now we're filling a refrigerator full of heads, and it's pretty fun, but they're also introducing these new concepts. Like there's a dagger, and there's a sword, maybe. I don't know. What are the other weapons? There's other weapons out there, and they possibly do other interesting things. So I'm intrigued. I'm interested in it. The artwork and the story, though, not quite as sophisticatedly structured as the original series, but still pretty decent, pretty worth it. Then we got The Nice House on the Lake, issue number 6. This is right at the halfway point now. We're about to go in the mid-season hiatus. So this book is gone for the next like 4 or 5 months or something like that until it returns to finish it out. But I loved it. You get big revelations here. It is an exposition issue, but it's also told through conversation and flashbacks, so it's not quite as obnoxious as, say, like The Gardener or something like that, which is too much exposition, because everything that was revealed here was really intriguing, very compelling, and if you've been reading the series, this is what you want to see, especially if the book's going to go on hiatus for a while. So they lay some things out, they introduce some new concepts, they make certain things from the past make a little bit more sense, and they actually build up even more of a mystery by revealing a lot. I loved this book. Nice House on the Lake, issue number 6. Let's jump over to Image. And from Image, we have Primordial, issue number 3. It's already here. I think it's because 2 was delayed, so it's just 3's right here. And this book is awesome. I freaking love this book. It's amazing. It's 2001: A Space Odyssey meets We 3 by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely. It's awesome. Abel and Baker, the monkeys that the U.S. sent off into space. Laika, the dog that the Russians sent off to space, that the Soviet Union sent off to space, I should say. They wound up encountering some kind of force or entity up there, and then they went missing. So all the space programs got shut down. There's this big mystery, but there's still a few people who are trying to solve this mystery, find the whereabouts of these animals. And in the last issue, people thought that there wasn't enough to it. I really didn't think that. I thought that it was great, giving us the backstory of Lycan, introducing a new character and a concept. They then start fleshing and flushing that out and expanding on that. So we're getting more into like the narrative of moving along with what the humans are up to, upping the stakes on that stuff a little bit. And then, yes, just like I thought, we're getting backstory on Abel in here. A little bit of Mrs. Baker, but it's mostly about Abel here. But it does, in my opinion, a more well-rounded job of balancing all those moments, right? Laika, one of my favorite characters I've read in a comic book this year, and I've already read Laika in an awesome comic book that kind of explored some ideas like that. That was Manhattan Projects. Yo, Hickman, where's that at? Anyway, Primordial, amazing artwork, beautifully rendered, intricate detail, great, amazing, bold color choices by Dave Stewart. The choices made there on the color are absolutely amazing. The layouts, the composition, psychedelic, weird, cool, sci-fi. Primordial number 3. That was another pick of the week contender. Then we got King Spawn, issue number 4. Look at that amazing color. I think that's Jason Alexander. Love that cover. King Spawn's been a fun book, man. Spawn's never going to be the most sophisticated storytelling on comic book shelves, but it should be some of the most exciting storytelling on comic book shelves. And it is. It really is, as far as being a visual storytelling and just the visual aspect of it. The artwork in this book is amazing. Javi Fernandez. It's dark. It's deep. We're utilizing more of these characters like She-Spawn, a little bit of medieval Spawn in there. But what's going on is you're starting to get a little bit more clear focus. For some reason, they're trying to get Spawn to crown himself the king and kind of like lead to this future where he's like ruling the earth. He's shut everything off, and there's some interesting concepts explored, but it's really the artwork that's just doing it for me here. Al is acting out of his damn mind, and I'm all for it. King Spawn, issue number 4. Like that. Let's jump over to Dynamite, where we have Elvira meets Vincent Price, issue number 3. I've been loving this series. Issue 3 is no exception. It's a book that knows exactly what it's trying to do. It's a little tongue-in-cheek. It's a little meta at times, self-referencing. But Elvira meeting the ghost of Vincent Price. They're trying to hunt down one of his lost films, because this lost film is going to lead to this like ancient Egyptian deity rising and taking over the world. So it's up to Elvira and the ghost of Vincent Price to stop that. And the book's got this nice, fun, rambunctious kind of flavor to it. It's got a great pace. David Avallone is the writer on this one. Really like it. The artwork is always solid in this book too. Juan Samu. Really like this book. Really fun stuff. If you're a fan of classic horror, if you're a fan of new horror, if you're a fan of the genre, definitely worth checking that out. Then we got Purgatori, issue number 2. Got that really cool TMNT homage cover from Ken Hazer. Got the Vampirella one from last week too, as well as the Nyx. But Purgatori's got one this week. Purgatori number 2, it's a pretty decent issue. It's starting to lose me a little bit. My first Purgatori series is this one, right? And so I read the first issue and I got into it, and then I'm reading this one, and it took me a while to kind of fit back in what was going on. Some of the personalities just seems weird and off, and it kind of goes back and forth. But overall story, it seems like these witches are trying to trick Purgatori into feeding on them so that they can possess her or something like that. That's intriguing enough. The artwork's pretty solid, but the story just wasn't, to me, as accessible as the first issue. But I love that cover. Then we got Army of Darkness 1979, issue number 3. Another one of those Ken Hazer TMNT homage covers. Love these covers, man. They all are a different color, too. Anyway, this one's pretty fun. It's like Ash. Okay, so the Necronomicon keeps just going to different time periods, and Ash follows it around, right? And in this one, it shows up in New York in 1979, pretty much in the middle of the movie Warriors, right? That's what's going on. This is Ash in the movie Warriors, and one of the gangs has got the Necronomicon, and they're just tearing shit up, and it's up to him to band together with one of the other gangs and go fight it. So it's fun. It's big dumb fun. It's not taking itself very seriously at all. Army of Darkness 1979. I've had a lot of fun with that one. Then we got the Vampirella Holiday Special, because yes, Thanksgiving's right around the corner, so that means Christmas is on the way. But anyway, this was a really cool Halloween story. Usually what you'll have with these things is somebody kind of doing their own take on a Christmas carol where, the hero is going to have to come across the ghost of Christmas past, present, and future. That's exactly what they do here, but they're like monster hunters. They've been doing this every year around Christmas time. So it was actually a really fun story. The artwork had this really weird, cartoonish kind of approach to it, but I kind of fell right in along with the flow of it and rather enjoyed it. It's got a couple backup stories in there that are nice, cute, little charming stories with some really solid artwork. So I thought overall, the Vampirella Holiday Special was pretty freaking solid. And then over at Boom, we've got Eat the Rich, issue number 4. This book's all right. It's kind of warm. I'm warming up to it, right? I feel like it kind of took a while to really kind of get going, to really get engaging. It was a bit unclear at times, and now it's definitely more clear, and it's actually doing some things, moving the story forward in a rather quick pace. So I liked it. I thought this issue was pretty solid. The artwork's been decent. The way they're telling the story is interesting, and the concept is interesting, and they're kind of being able to actually say something, but also do something that's interesting, kind of horror driven in a way, and mysterious. So Ether Rich number 4. I'm warming up on that series, y'all. Then we got Power Rangers issue number 13. The Eltarian War continues, and this is a direct crossover with Mighty Morphin. They both started together and then split off into their own thing. Now they are together. This is the direct follow-up to the last issue of Mighty Morphin, and I love it. It's got the Mighty Morphin team. It's got the Space Ranger team. They're getting involved. This is big, boisterous Power Rangers mythology. It's great superhero action, and I'm loving it. I do feel like the book kind of lugged down for a little bit, both Power Ranger books, but now that we've kicked it up into the Eltarian War, it's moving fast and furious, and Vin Diesel said so. Anyway, mixing metaphor. Yeah, doing that again. Not All Robots, issue number 4. Crazy issue. Some things reach a climax that I didn't think would happen yet, and other things that I thought would be dealt with in this issue haven't been dealt with yet. So there's some of this stuff is still brewing, and some of it's just spilling all over the place. Really like this. So now this is a world in which humans, they can't fend for themselves, so we create robots to go out and work for us. So we just sit at home all day and the robots go out and work for us, but they're starting to uprise. So our answer was to create man robots, like robots that look like people, and we like go put them through sensitivity training and stuff like that. And then the robot uprising happens, and man, they said the revolution would be televised, but it's also going to be written in the pages of a comic book. This is a great robot revolution type book that kind of spins everything on its head, what you know about those familiar common story tropes. Then we got Canto 3, Lionhearted, issue number 4. This came out last week, but I didn't get a chance to read it. Read issue number 4. I know Bob, Bullseye Bob from Everything Comics, was really looking forward to what I thought about it. Bruh, this was awesome. This is awesome. I really feel like Canto 3 was kind of meandering around too much, and I was kind of down on it at first, but no. Having known now what the plan is, how they're doing this for like 2 more series at least or something like that, and they're building up to this big thing, yeah, I'm right along into the pace of it, especially with the events of issue number 4 of Canto 3. You gotta be kidding me. Big time stuff, throwing back to the original series, pulling those emotional threads again all the way through, putting all the people, all the characters in place. Bruh, fantastic. I'm on board 100% again with Canto. So that's what I read. That's what I thought about it. A little bit of a light week, some really strong books, some decent books, and some sorry books. And I'm not reading Spider-Man again for a few months, at least. Anyway, that's what I'm reading. That's what I'm thinking. What are you reading? What are you digging? Let us know in the comments down below. Please check us out over at patreon.com/PCP if you want to help support the channel. And join us over at popculturephilosophers.com for podcasts and a whole lot more. And that podcast will be returning in January, and $5 level patron members and up are going to have access to the live recording, video recording of the podcast until they're released for free for everybody in an audio format. So that's something to look forward to in January. Anyway, I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Station. Keep on reading.